Hey everybody, it is top 5 Dota time, and today's top 5 is going to be the top 5 most underused hero in the pro game. It's going to be limited to Dota 2 only, but before we get on the top 5 topic, let me introduce my co-host, I suppose, today. His name is Wicked, and he is from Dota-Academy.com. What's up, Wicked?
Hello guys, thank you for having me here, Lumi. As you mentioned, I'm Wicked, my name's Bruno. I run the Dota Academy side, Dota-Academy. I know. But, well, I mean, the thing is, most of you guys probably have heard of my site. For those who haven't, I'm keeping track of pretty much everything that's happening in the pro scene regarding statistics. So every time, every pro team plays a match, we record it on the site so we can get like win percentage for pretty much all of the players, all of the teams, how the matches went out. We also have a huge bot library, so if you want to tune into our site, you can go there and check the matches that you've missed that you couldn't watch live. And we have like lots of really interesting things to play and just go about. Like, for example, I don't know, you can pick some heroes and see if someone plays that specific lineup, or see two teams head to head. I don't know, lots of cool stuff. Please just check it out because it's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely worth your time. My favorite portion about that website, it's right at the homepage. You get to see like who's got the most skill in the pro game, which hero's got the most skill, who has fed the most. It's just a lot of like small interesting tidbits, and I think I could say that the website is also working on future secret projects. And again, just it's worth your time. Quickly check it out if you want to do so. But let's jump back to the top 5 list here today. It is on the top 5 most underrated or underpicked, I suppose, hero in the pro scene. And Bruno and I, or Wicked and I, kind of spent a little bit of time working on this list. But before we actually get on the list, there's a couple of honorable mentions. Bruno, you want to quickly jump through them?
Yeah, okay, so for these heroes, this won't be on our top 5 list, but they were worth mentioning. One of them is Viper, Dazzle. I think we also had Outward Destroyer, and that's it.
I think we had like Razor.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Razor.
Razor and Dazzle.
And Ursa.
Well.
Dazzle, I said Dazzle, and Ursa. That's the one I mean.
Ursa Warrior.
Ursa
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we definitely seen some of the heroes picked, and also the heroes on our top 5 list are also picked before. But we feel like they add so much to your team, and they add something different to your team that many other, the current 30 heroes don't replicate. Like, for example, Outward Destroyer, on our honorable mention list, like he's not on the list itself, but he adds something different that, not other carriers could kind of mimic. So that's kind of what we're going for, and obviously the hero is underpicked. That's why, underrated in a sense. So, okay, so let's get on the top 5 list. At number 5, we have Pudge, the Butcher, or Butcher,
Pudge,
however you say that.
I think Butcher, but
Butcher,
I don't know.
Okay.
My native tongue is not English. So, well, I mean, Pudge, he gets like so much love from the pub players. He gets so much love from Dendy. I think we first saw him at the international finals last year, and people like fell in love immediately with him. He's a great hero for many reasons. He's a beast mid-game. But then again, I mean, his main skill is hit or miss. Or maybe hit something else that you weren't expecting to hit.
To reiterate what you said, like, it's so, you guys all know, like, that's why Pudge movie exists, because how difficult it really is to hit those hooks. And the difference between hitting a hook and missing it, and what that does for your team, or what that doesn't do for your team, is day and night. Literally day and night, because Pudge, when you do hit the hook, probably one of the best here on the game. I mean, it's basically a one-size swap. It deals, 360 pure damage?
Pure damage, exactly.
Pure damage. It does a lot of damage. It instantly makes your team 5-5-4. It saves teammates, initiates ganks. It's your uphill spell. If you ever had a tough time walking into a base, hey, there's a hook. But if you miss it, it actually doesn't do anything. Pudge offers nothing in a team fight, aside from rot and perhaps baiting out a stun with Dismember. But that's not the hero that you're looking for when you're picking for one. And that's kind of the reason why we don't have it so high on our top 5 list. Sure, it's very underrated and it's underplayed, but that's kind of also because the heroes, it's bad when you don't hit the hooks, and it's great when you do, so it's really unreliable.
Yeah, I mean, people love Dismember too, but then again, you have to compare it to other spells. It's a stun
It's a
that also
melee range.
Yeah.
It's a melee range channel stun. I'm not sure how people love it, but
I don't know. I think it deals a fair amount of damage, and it goes through BKB, which is no minor feat. But then
Right.
again, you have Roar, you have Fiend's Grip. There are lots of other spells that are just way better. And Rod, it's just an AOE, some damage, some slow. It damages you too. Definitely not too good once you miss that hookshot.
yeah, I think that just about cover it. I mean, definitely in your pub games, you've definitely seen 14-0-1 Pudges that are like 2,000 HP when everyone else is 800, and that's
Yeah.
the godlike Pudge. And there's also Pudge games where he's level 17 and everybody's level 25 and he actually doesn't do anything. He has a hood and that's it. So it's kind of day and night. It's very unreliable, and that puts him at number 5.
Speaking of unreliable, I think that it's worth mentioning how Pudge does when he actually sees play in the pro game.
Let's hear some Dota-Academy.com statistics on this one.
Some statistics. I think I have the site has 1,300 matches accounted for, and Pudge has only seen play in 56 of those, having a 42% win rate, which is really, really not good.
Yep.
Most of the other good heroes, I don't know, Anti-Mage is around 50-something, 57. Pudge is not doing so well.
Not positive.
Yeah, not positive. That really means a lot. There are not too many Pudge players, and that hurts him too. I think the only Pudge players who actually played a lot with Pudge are Dendi, of course, Miguel, which never did particularly good with the Pudge, and Sokshka, current MTW player, which is now playing carry more than 4 or mid heroes. So you won't be seeing any more Pudge from him anytime soon.
So again, to reiterate, that's Dendi.
Yep.
And a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah.
And it's only a 42% win rate, right?
Exactly.
I think that says it all. All right, and number 4, we're going to go to Bane Elemento, which we mentioned kind of slightly earlier on about the Fiend's Grip, that it does go through BKB. We have seen a couple of teams play this hero. I think Navi, Adair, and a couple of East European teams do play him. But
Yes.
he doesn't see that much play, actually.
I think that Derer started using him, and also at the same time DTS, and then Navi caught on, and recently Arsart has been using him quite a lot, with moderate success, I say, for Navi, because they are 3-3 actually with.
So even for Navi, still 3-3.
Yeah, so that's something that you shouldn't be seeing on a hero. I mean, if you look at their Windrunner, I think it's something like really plus 90% win rate. It's 50% with Bane, so something must not be working. And actually, that's a good point. Why isn't it working? Well, people say Bane is the ultimate disabler. You can pretty much have...
Sort of.
Yeah, I mean, he has
Sort of.
3 skills. You can remove the carry from the game if you put a good Amphival on him. You can sleep a target. You can Fiend's Grip another one. But that's it. And that's not always that much because, first of all, you have 0 AoE. 0.
Well, I mean, let's to be fair. There's some other heroes that are currently in the pro scene that have quote-unquote 0 AoE, and they're still effective. Shadow Demon. But I think what hurts Bane over here with his lack of AoE is because his spells are kind of Pudge-esque, not very reliable. We talked about the sleep, which really good support player could take away with by all attack, or even if you have summon, like Chen Creep's taking away of sleep. We've seen that in pro games.
Yep.
Fiend's Grip, we know, I mean, it has a decent cast range, but for the most part, it can be cancelled, especially like running against things like Fissure, Ravage. I mean, you're not going to get a full channel Fiend's Grip every single team fight. And even Enfeeble, which sounds like a very reliable thing, you got to keep in mind that's his 3rd spell that he's going for.
Yep.
So most of the time, it's under level. Bane is a generally under level hero. And Fiend's Grip, again, not Fiend's Grip, Enfeeble is just, like, doesn't do enough at the stage of the game that you do pick it up.
Yeah. So I think that he might have a place. The thing is that now he's being played as a 4 or 5, that meaning a hard support or really not level dependent. And you might have seen that Bane has lots of skills for being very good at 1v1. The thing is that if he's not getting the farm and if he's not getting the level, he will not be very used. So maybe in the future we'll be able to see some solo mid Bane Elemental, and that will be something different.
I've seen Vigos do that a couple of times for his team.
Yeah.
And it's really effective. You get a phase boot on it, and you basically, like for example, if someone's pushing your tower, you run in, you sleep one, and suddenly the enemy team is at a decision, like do we actually take the fight under the enemy tower when they could group up on us with our guy kind of sleeping, taking some damage. I mean, we kind of talked about the weakness of Bane, how he lacks AoE, how his stuns, how his disables are kind of unreliable. So why is he actually on the list, right? Yeah. He has to do something really good for his team.
Well, he does. As I told you, this is all that Bane he can do. He can turn around team fights if things go out his way. I think that you mentioned it correctly. It's kind of like in a Pudge situation where if you land everything correctly, he will do lots of things for you. The thing is that it requires so much skill, which of course pro players have, but then again, in very intense situations, you might not land the spells correctly or perfectly, and then again, even if you do, they're so easily counterable that if you find the right lineup to make the most out of what he gives, he can work. Otherwise, if you just put him instead of putting a Crystal Maiden or a Shadow Demon in your team, well, he won't be doing too much.
The thing about Bane that impressed me the most is the fact that he has a 8-second quasi-disabled. Again, I say quasi because it could be canceled or taken away. I mean, how many times like you see your tower, being taken, and then you teleport in, and when the enemy hero sees you teleporting in, they try to run, right?
Yep.
Crystal Maiden, when she teleports in, she's Nova, she maybe even bite, but at the time that your second TP comes in, the enemy hero is probably gone.
Yeah.
The thing with Bane is she teleports in. If he ever stuns you, you're not running at all from the team. That applies for any kind of gank, any chasing situation, at the end of a team fight. There's so much reach with that spell, and I think teams are starting to take advantage of it. Also, earlier talking about the fact that he's currently played as a 4 or 5 role. I think he's a lot better as a 3. Like, he needs the XP. We talked about how Enfeeble, if you pick it up too late, not that effective. Minus 100 damage. Sounds like a lot, but again, against an anti-mage with 300 damage, it's nothing really. He needs level, he needs item, he needs movement speed, HP. He needs a lot of stuff. Yeah. And teams are putting him on the support warding role, and he doesn't get it.
Nope. And there's, as you just said, there's some other niche for him, which is his Bane, what's the name of this healing spell?
Brain Sap?
Brain Sap, yeah. It deals pure damage, which is no joke. So, I mean, people like Invoker and they go for Sunstrike now because it deals pure damage. There are quite a few spells that deal pure damage and are getting pretty much a lot of attention right now. Well, here you have another one, and it's not a minor one. 300, it's decent, especially when you hit that level 7, level 8. You'll deal lots of damage no matter what your armor is, no matter what your magic resistance is. Pure damage means you're getting the full 300 every single time. Yeah,
I mean, unless they're magically immune, which, it's another story. But yeah, I mean, again, it's better than Pudge in my opinion, because Pudge is either hit or miss. This is somewhere closer to the middle. It's still kind of hit or miss because your spells could be countered, could be backfired. But for the most part, I think he's a very solid hero that teams aren't really trying him out. Any more statistics regarding the hero aside from the 50% thing?
Well, Bane Elemental, we told that Pudge was at 42%, while Bane is at 40%. That ranking
so even lower.
Yeah, even lower. He's actually one of the worst win percentage heroes that we've seen. He's also really low at what we call teamfight participation. For the ones who don't know what I'm talking about, teamfight participation is pretty much a way of measuring how a hero is relevant in the team skills. So if you participate a lot, that means getting lots of kills or assists when your team kills, you'll have higher participation. Naturally, some heroes have naturally high participation, like Zeus. Whenever he ults, if someone dies, he will definitely get an assist. Same with Nature's Prophet. Bane Elemental has a really, really low participation at 55% and 48% when his team wins, which is really nice because it means that when his team wins, it's because he's doing that much, and the rest of the team is actually taking over for him. Yeah. So 48% is really low for a hero that, again, he doesn't have any AoE, and that's quite a big thing. But then I think he should be a hero, from a support hero, you should expect more than what he's actually bringing to the table.
Right, and again, lack of AoE, the lack of counter pushing and pushing, we kind of didn't mention that. And that's kind of what you expect on your 4 or 5 support row, and he doesn't really provide that. So I'm personally a big fan of him playing on the 3 row. Hopefully teams will be trying that out soon. Again, Vigos played it once or twice, so...
Yeah, actually there are just 2 players of regular Bane players. One of them I mentioned is Arsart. and
Right.
he's doing quite okay. Not particularly better than his other support heroes. And the other one, who was the trend maker, was Go Black, free winner, Goblin, 333. I mean, he has lots of nicknames. He's playing for Dero right now, and most people know him as Go Black.
Right.
But then again, if you have a hero like that and you have a 0.5 KDR, it means that you're not really doing that. And if you factor, even if you factor assists in that, he just gets around 2, which is really, really low even for a support hero. So yeah, I think that they'll have to find a way to make him more effective. And it's not the hero's
He's
fault.
not support at heart. I'm just saying. He's
Yep.
not support at heart.
Yep,
He maybe
pretty
plays a
much.
support, but he doesn't really want to do so.
Yeah.
I think that's enough for Bane Elemental. And number 3, we have the Omniknight.
The Omniknight. Yeah, such an interesting hero. Sometimes called the ultimate support. I'm not sure I agree with that. But then again, I mean, if you have something that slows the other enemy, a heal for your team that also damages, a repel that makes someone get a free BKB for quite a lot of time, and an ultimate that makes all your team physically invulnerable, well, I mean, you've got some support there.
Yeah. Except he's melee.
Except he's melee. And
Except he has no counter push.
Yeah, and he's not meant to be in the middle of the team fight. For example, some melee heroes like Tidehunter are really good supports because they have to be in the middle of the team fight. You have to be in the middle of it to get a good Ravage, to get your Anchor Smash, even to gush someone that's trying to run away. Omniknight doesn't want to be in the middle of the fight. He wants to stay away so he can repel the correct target and heal the other target. But if you're a melee hero and you're not in the middle of the team fight, that means you will not be doing anything other than casting your spells.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about Omniknight is if you thought Bane Elemental's team fight participation rate was low or bad, I'm pretty sure with Omniknight, it's like horrid, right?
Yes. You want to hear the number? The number is
sure.
31%.
31%. That means
31%. That's
in
the
the kills
lowest.
or assists that his teams
Yeah.
are getting, he's getting a third of that. That's horrible.
literally the lowest in the game. There's no one
Is that the
worse.
lowest?
Yep, there's no one worse than Omniknight, and by far. Because the next one is Trend Protector at 45%.
Okay,
But
well,
it's really low.
yeah, I mean, Omniknight, again, his playstyle doesn't put him in the middle of the team fight. Now, of course, you definitely in pub games, you've seen some Omnis trying to carry out with Degenera, right-clicking in the middle, and that's a fine playstyle. But what we've seen from pro game is the fact that he hides behind and heal, repel, Guardian Angel, like Wicked Spring Out. If you play against a good Omniknight, it's got to be the most annoying thing. Like, it feels like you can never get a kill going on. You have to actually get a Purge Blade for anything to even happen. And by that time, Omniknight's probably won a couple of team fights. Because, again, a 360 damage heal, a BKB, basically at, minute 8? Like, you can't even beat that. And, of course, physical immunity. Like, there's just really very little things in the game that could beat it. Playing against a good Omniknight is, like, the worst thing in the world, in my opinion. But, similarly, playing against a mispositioned Omniknight is fairly easy. Like, he's not that tanky for a strength hero. He might have really, really powerful spells, but he has mana issues. There's many different ways to tackle it. And that's why he's number 3 for me, because there's the team fights where he dominates, and there's also team fights where he just doesn't do any. You could have a 360 damage heal, but if they ravage you and black hole you, you're dead.
It won't matter at all.
It won't matter.
And then again, I mean, you mentioned something very important, which I want to stress. Purge Blade, Diffusal Blade. That kills the Omniknight. You take away Repel, you take away the ult, you just... I mean, whoever he's trying to protect will die just by the click of a spell. And then again, I mean, not every team goes for a Diffusal Blade every single time, but if you have an AG carry, you might be able to go for that. If you got, I mean, God bless, if you have a Riki, you'll probably have one, and you don't want an Omniknight against a Riki. But, I mean, when you have an item, a single item that counters a hero, an entire hero so hard, well, you have a problem there, and something that you have to keep in mind when picking him. That doesn't mean that the hero is useless, but again, as I told you, if you have a Diffusal carrier on the other team, you might want to stay away from Omniknight.
Right, I mean... It's a fair point to say Diffusal Blade counter him, but as a captain, you probably won't pick him into Riki, like you're saying. You won't pick him against a Mirana or something like that. So, I mean, a safe assumption, if you're playing with the correct captain and against the enemy, you won't pick Omni against those guys. And when that's in place, I mean, this is not a top 5 underused heroes and why they suck. This is more like top 5 underused heroes and why they should be picked more. So
yeah,
let's go on the other side. I mean, I kind of briefly talk about it. Playing against a good Omniknight, you're not getting any kills. You're losing team fights. Even you're trying to initiate, you're trying to push. He just basically wins you team fights, flat out. That's just kind of a scary thing to be thinking about.
Well, that's the point. I mean, Omniknight, yeah, the heal is 360, but it's also 360 damage. So right there, you have a 720 HP differential between swing, and that alone can make things different. It's so hard. I mean, we've been talking about team fight, but it's really hard to also gank a dual lane with an Omniknight there, or even a single Omniknight. So
how many times have you walked in a lane and you saw like Omniknight and a Crystal Maiden? You're like, or Omniknight and like a Marwan or something. You're like, oh well, I guess I'm not killing anyone in this lane now. It's that kind of effect. It's hard to get kills against Omniknights.
So in that way, he kind of gives you safety, which is not a minor thing. He synergizes well with many other heroes. Some BKB. Some heroes that really need a BKB, like, I don't know, Shadowfiend, which is not really that used to, but anyway. Most of the carries will well for a BKB. Having an Omni in your team doesn't mean that you have to not go for the BKB, but actually that you can delay and get some other damage item.
Because you get a free one earlier. That's an important point to point out. I mean, Enigma, sure, he could just rush up Blink Dagger, naked Blink Dagger, and generally that means it's a poor item choice. But hey, if you have Enigma that repels you beforehand, well, there you go.
So he's definitely good. He's definitely a good hero. I mean, we talk about his drawbacks, but he's really good. If you have the right team for it, if you think about it, and if your captain, as Lumi said, makes your team around him, work around him correctly.
Yeah, this is definitely not a Shadow Demon choice where you kind of just fit him anywhere. It's like, oh yeah, it's going to work out. Yeah, Omniknight, it's difficult to place. Difficult to play properly, but again, if all the stars align, one of the most devastating heroes, defensively and offensively.
Yep.
Any more statistics before we head into number 2?
Well, this time I'll go with a month-by-month review of Omniknight. He's not doing really well. As I told you, his participation and his win rate is also quite low. Did I say it?
You haven't said Omni's win rate.
Yeah, I said it was quite low, but just a quick month by month. Starting by January this year, 42%, 33%, 20%, 50%, but he only played 2 games, so it's a 50-50. Then again, 50% because he played, 8 times, and 0% this last month of June.
How many games this month?
3 games.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I mean, the overall statistics can't really be dependent that much, especially if you've been only play, 50 games total, or perhaps around that number. So, the win rate isn't that important, but you see that hero, again, it's having this issue. Now, most teams do play him as, I'm not sure if they play him as a 3-row or 4.
Well, I've seen both. I've seen both. I've definitely seen Omniknights that try to farm and get this quick Arcane Boots and Mech or something like that. And I've also seen Omniknights that work, and I'm pretty sure that those are the worst. I think he suffers from the same thing that Bane suffers, which is he's not really so effective if he doesn't get early levels and some amount of farm. He really doesn't need that much farm, but I mean, it helps, and he can get it. So you can even put him, I don't know, solo in a lane, not necessarily middle lane, and he will survive because he has so much going for him. And I think that would be the most appropriate way to play it.
Yep. Again, support, not in heart. Well, I mean, it's so ironic, right? He's a support hero, but you need to give him some farm so he can support you. So kind of ironic. But that's Omniknight at number 3. And number 2, another quasi-healer. I mean, we have a couple healers on the list, but this is one of the best healer of them all, the Necrophos.
One of my favorite heroes. Necrophos is so good. Some people like to think of him as a support just because he has a heal. I think that couldn't be more wrong. He's definitely a carry hero and not a support hero. He's a chunky carry in a way that you have to think about him carry-wise, like you play Crovolus, a Death Prophet. You have to play him chunky. If he stays in the fight, the more he stays in the fight, the more damage he will make, will deal. The more your team will survive because he has those heals, and he has an ultimate that's the ultimate anti-tanky hero ultimate.
Yeah, I feel like he's very Spectre-esque in that nature. He wants to be in the middle of everything, very different from Omniknight. And the interesting thing about Necrolyte is like if you don't kill him or his team quickly, you're not killing anything. Because he heals every time that thing comes off cooldown. He's built naturally tanky, so we've seen things like a mecha into. I think you talked about Rod of Atos as being
Rod
one
of
your
Atos,
favorite.
yes.
We've seen
really
Pipe a lot on him. We've seen Heart, Shiva. He is just built tanky, and again, you gotta focus him, or you really want to focus him because every single team fight there's an AOE HP swing. He heals his teammate, he hurts you guys. He's very anti-tank, and guess what? Tanky carries are very popular these days now. Anti-mage are fairly tanky carry. Well, mana break again, so Necrolyte's not a really good thing. But yeah, I mean, imagine all the popular carries. They're very tanky. The tanky of them all is the Strength Morphling. Like, he's actually a Morphling Slayer in disguise. Oh yeah, you're shifting up to, what, 4,000 HP? No problem, Reaper Scythe. And I think alone, like, Morphling, if you guys are following the latest pro scene, is one of the hottest, most popular carry heroes. And I think Necrolyte is more like actually a straight up counter, I feel like.
Definitely, because I mean, as you just said, the thing about Morph is that it doesn't change your HP percentage. Necrolyte's damage is based on your HP percentage, so it doesn't matter if you have like 50% of 600 HP or 6,000. You will lose that 50% or almost 50% while he hits level 3. So it really is a good spell against tanky carries, and it stuns, which is not that much. But I mean, some heroes like him lack a way of canceling channeling spells, and every once in a while that spell gets that utility too, which is never bad to have.
Yeah.
Regarding statistics, though, he's actually doing quite well for only having played 14 matches. That is 1% of the matches that we've played. Anyone has ever played in Dota 2. Isn't just 1% of them, but he has a 50% win rate, so he won half of those.
Yeah, it's pretty good compared to at least Pudge, Bane, and Omniknight.
Yeah.
Now, of course, all these statistics are as of right now. So you have about 1,300 matches. But it's growing very much so every week, right? Because every week there's at least 20, 30
Well, I
matches?
mean, at the moment we're getting about 300 matches per month.
Okay.
So this is quite a lot, but it's getting bigger and bigger every single month, and we're keeping up. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of months we'd get like 500, 600 matches a month. That's pretty much 20 matches a day.
Yeah, a lot of matches, and of course it's all piled or try to be compiled on Dota-Academy.com. But quickly, let's go back to Necrolyte. His item builds, here's where I personally have a little bit issue with the hero and why we don't see it that often. He's very reliant on farm. He's a carry, so he's definitely reliant on farm, but he's very easily gankable. I don't care if you have a hero, they generally gank you with 3 and you're probably dead. Yep. So that's where he has an issue compared to popular carries like Morphling Anti-Mage, who could get away from ganks relatively easily.
Exactly, and you talked about if you don't kill him fast or someone fast, you won't kill anyone. But then again, I mean, he has no answer for anyone who bursts you down. Right. So, I mean, okay, you can be tanky, you can have a Shiva and Bloodstone and a Heart and have like 5k health. But if your other semi-carry or the other heroes in your team can be burst down, yeah, I mean, you can pop a heal every 6 seconds and you can have a mech charge every 35. But that's it. I mean, you won't be able to save them. You don't have anything that will make them survive more. And once the Necrolyte is alone in the fight, he is food for the rest of the team because... Well, yeah, as you told, I mean, it's the same situation as in a game. You don't have an escape mechanism. You don't have a way to actually get rid of the guys following you. Necrolyte's worst nightmare is being alone against other heroes.
He doesn't want to be alone. Forever alone Necrolyte.
Yeah, and that, I think that, well, remember that we talked about Omniknight, his participation is really low, about 30%. He's the complete opposite, 80% participation.
As you imagine.
Yeah, I mean, just that aura being there makes you deal damage. Of course, that aura doesn't go to assists, at least in Dota 2.
Aura's HP loss, so I don't think it actually goes to assist.
But then again, I mean, you have an AoE spell that you spam.
Right, again, you are in the front line. You are supposed to in the middle. You want to heal your teammates as well as damage your enemy. So the 80% participation rate doesn't surprise me at all. He's meant to be in the middle, and that's why he needs so much farm to actually be effective in the middle.
Exactly. And I mean, he has just 14 matches, so there's no one that we can say plays him regularly. But there's some interesting statistic about him. His average match time, that is, the average time it takes him to win a game, is 42 minutes. So if you sum up all the matches where Necrolite played and won, and then you average them, you get 42 minutes. If you've been following, I mean, the scene really recently, you'll realize that matches don't last as long for most of the teams.
25, 30 minutes.
Yeah, so that means if you're building a team around Necrolite, you have to expect to be able to survive for 42 minutes, and once you get there, well, you probably have a good advantage and be able to take it, because he's as you said, he's a carry that needs lots of farm. And that's kind of a problem for current metagame. But I think that even then, he kind of can help in pushes, because his Death Pulse heals you, damages other units. It's not the best pushing spell, but it can help. And then again, yeah.
There's a couple situations where he's really good. Like, how many times where you won a team fight, but your entire team's too low to actually go back to Roche or go push? That's where Necrolite really comes in. Again, he doesn't have the burst damage that necessarily like could mow down creep wave by himself, but he heals your creeps as well. And with the mech, he builds up the armor for a creep. So he's not the best pushing carry by all means, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Yeah. He has some things under his sleeve. He's a walking fountain of sorts.
Sort of. Sort of. A slow walking fountain.
Really slow, but then again.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to be Necrolite at number 2. And the most underrated hero, according to Wicked and I, where teams should be picking him a lot more than they are. This hero just gives so much to his team, but again, people are ignoring him so much. It is the Warlock.
Yes, definitely. And I really don't have anything bad to say about this guy. Of course he has.
I do, but you go with the good stuff first.
But I go with the good stuff because I really like this guy. I mean, laning phase, you have a heal. It's not the best heal in the world, but it can sustain you or can sustain a carry, save you a couple of consumables. He has one of the best lane harassing skills in Fatal Bonds. Once you hit that, I mean, people think that Fatal Bonds has to do with AoE, not in a laning situation. You just have to get the Fatal Bonds on that enemy hero and just quickly mow down the creep wave. You don't even have to auto-attack them, you just let the creeps do their work. And that HP loss is huge, really huge. You have an ultimate that is great. I mean, stun,
real fast,
a minion.
Real fast. If you ever were lucky enough to not lane against a Fatal Bond Warlock, I ask you next AP game, you play the Warlock, put a couple exploits in the Fatal Bond, and try to hit the enemy heroes with a creep wave, and you will see how quickly their HP is dropping. Again, if you never lane against it, consider yourself lucky. It's got to be one of the most annoying thing ever.
Yes, and quickly doing the math here, against level 1 Fatal Bonds, if you get hit and 2 other creeps get hit, you'll be receiving 200 HP loss every time he casts that.
That's HP loss and not magical damage.
It goes through everything. Yeah, it goes through everything, and you can't do anything about it. I mean, it's slow. Yeah, it's kind of a dot damage over time, but you can't do anything about it. And imagine that over and over every single creep wave. That's what laning against Warlock is.
The dude has a pretty high mana pool, so he could definitely stand that.
Yeah. And then again, he has an Upheaval, which is a challenging spell. It's a kind of one of the most misunderstood spells in Dota. People opt sometimes to not even level it. But again, I mean, the same situation as before. If you ever been in the middle of a highly channeled Upheaval, you'll know how annoying that is.
It is actually the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you have it. He's a great hero. If you have something bad to say about him, say it now, so I'll counter it.
Okay, so, I mean, a lot of these heroes that we're mentioning, in fact, I think all 5 heroes on the list so far, one thing they have in common is most teams try to put him as a support, but he's really not a support. I think Pudge is kind of the outlier, because Pudge always goes mid, and he gets quite a bit of farm, but for the most part, Warlock, when we have seen him in high numbers, was way back when he was paired up with the Spectre and was babysitting hero, and as a babysitter, he's not bad. He has great animation for denying and last hitting. He has a heal, like you mentioned. Fatal Bond could be decent. But I feel like teams don't play him enough as a 3-row, a semi-carry row. He, again, needs the item. All his skills are kind of great, but he's still very item dependent. He's very squishy. In the late game, he never feels like he has enough mana because you have no mana regeneration items. He needs item. He needs levels. And it's hard to actually get it because he doesn't have any good flash farming spells. He's actually kind of just hitting one creep at a time. I feel like he farms relatively slow. But that's not his biggest weakness. I think his biggest weakness right now is he has no push. I mean, I guess when the Warlock ultimate's up, he has push, but you don't want to drop that over a push. No. He has no counter push. Like if 3 or 4 guys are in front of towers with treants and stuff railing on it, Warlock can do anything about it. You're definitely gonna drop the Fatal Bond for it. Like that's not worth it, you know.
No.
In case if a team fight breaks out, so he's very slow in terms of getting a farm. He doesn't counter push decently, and I'm not too sure whether this is a weakness, but it's just towards a playstyle of Warlock. He's very dependent on his team.
Yes.
If your team is landing, you know, sonic waves on the top of everybody, if your team has an epicenter, then suddenly Fatal Bond, Upheaval, and the Rock is like I've many times in the past I've said Fatal Bond is the best spell in the game. And that's when it happens, when you have like Venomancer, you have all these AoE ultimates on top of that. But if your team is caught out of position, I don't care if you're Fatal Bond all 5 their heroes, it's not going to do anything.
Definitely.
So it's very swingy in that nature as well. So again, like I kind of another recurring theme is these heroes are kind of swingy, not that reliable. So yeah, Wicked brought out a whole bunch of good points about it, but there's kind of a couple of big weaknesses as well about the hero.
Yes. However, I think that it's the same case as I think Pudge when we mentioned him. You have to build a team around him, kind of.
Sure,
you correctly mentioned that you have to have some AoE. Particularly Poison Nova is. If you ever been playing in a pub and you get hit by Fatal Bonds and Poison Nova, you'll see the most unfair combination of spells you ever seen in your life, because you'll be dead. Actually, that will be dealing like 200% of the damage Poison Nova normally deals. And you don't even really need Poison Nova. As you said, Epicenter, pretty much anything, Sonic Wave, Scream of Bane, anything. It gives you so much in a team fight if you correctly land that Fatal Bonds. But if you don't, what happens?
Yeah. It's complicated. I mean, one of the coolest thing about Fatal Bond that not many players recognize or realize is how strong it is. Like, if 5 guys at the beginning of your team fight gets Fatal Bond together, if they have any sort of AoE on the other side, you basically lost the team fight, but you don't know it yet. So you just take the fight and you'll lose it. If you guys never seen the Fatal Bond and Venomancer Ultimate Combo, I think there's actually a pro game about it. I'm not too sure if you could Google or YouTube search for it. It is actually the most insane thing in the world. I'll let you guys maybe someone in the comment section below could put the YouTube link to the game or something like that. It's literally mind blowing. I'm not kidding at all when I say it's one of the best spells in the game, if not the best spell in the game. So I mean, of course, he gives you a lot more. Inferno, it's not bad at all. It goes through BKB. It's a huge AoE stun. It doesn't stun for long, but definitely if there's an Enigma channeling on the other side of the screen, you can cancel it. So there's many niche that he fulfills. He's a decent, again, last hitter. He controls the lane fairly well, Fatal Bond. So he does a lot of good stuff, and I don't think teams are exploiting him enough. I've never seen kind of a wombo combo kind of thing with Fatal Bond. Like, we never see enough Warlock, and I always question myself, why not Warlock?
Yes, and one other thing, when we mentioned Omniknight, we talked about Diffusal Blade kind of counter team, and I've seen many people saying, well, okay, then same reasoning, you can get a Diffusal Blade, and that Infernal is gone, so you have completely counter Warlock, which is completely not the case. Most people...
You take away some of his DPS, which is fair, you know?
Yeah, but then again, I mean, he's not meant to be the main DPSer.
Exactly.
So, yeah... I think that huge stun, and it's a really, really huge stun. Some people sometimes underrate the AoE of that Warlock stun, because it's a huge AoE, but also a huge cast range. So sometimes you see things that, oh, no way, he couldn't have stunned me there where I was, because I was really far away. But that's the reach. And sometimes, once you put that correct stun there, you already won that team fight. Warlock is really, really a good hero in many, many situations. He has his problems, as you mentioned, and I have to agree with them. I thought I wouldn't be able to agree with you because I really like the hero, but you've made some really, really solid points. But
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, but definitely, he's a hero that should be played more. And regarding that match that you just asked about, I just checked on my site, which you can do that. You can go to the lineup tool and check which matches were played with something like Warlock Venomancer. And I remember that match that they won, and the only match that they won with a Venomancer and Warlock was U-Boat versus Just for the Tournament for the Defense 2011, January 15, 2012. We can link the VOD once you post this video on YouTube, because I have the VOD too there.
Dota-Academy is where Wicked is from. It search VODs for you. It gives you statistics. You can search. There's so much information there. And if you ever watch the TPL broadcast for this season, there's definitely at the beginning of TPL we did a lot of like pre-game analysis, which team had the best hero, which team had win rate on this hero. We had a lot of interesting statistics about anti-mage this month, or he's 7-8, like all those kind of stuff. We got it from Dota-Academy.com. I think that's gonna do it for our top 5 list. Kind of a fairly long episode, but we got into a lot of detail about these underrated heroes. And actually, this is one of my most requested kind of topic, because players don't want to see the same Morphling Anti-Mage all the time. So
yes,
I want to spend a little bit extra time to kind of delve into these heroes that we don't generally see too often. So really want to give a big thanks to Bruno, or Wicked, for helping me out. And of course, please check out his website. And hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Dota Top 5. Until next time, this is Luminous, Wicked, and the entire DotaCommentary.com signing off. See you guys.
Bye, guys.